Hello everyone. Today I have a pretty special video for you, but before we can get into it, let me give you some backstory. About 4 days ago, a game called Wuthering Waves released, and the game was fun. It was all fun. It was very, very fun. I played the game on release. I recorded for around 2-3 hours, I edited it, and on that same day, I uploaded a video of basically my first impression. Today, when I went to go back and look at that video, there was a lot of comments and people saying a lot of things that just honestly wasn't really true, or maybe they were just looking at it with rose-tinted glasses, looking at it through nostalgia. But today, I am here to definitively show you the difference between Genshin Impact and Wuthering Waves. That'll be the first part of this video, and then the second part of this video is my thoughts on Wuthering Waves after 4 days of playing. So like, I'm uni level 31, I've already completed the whole story thing, I've done a bunch of side quests, I've done a lot of stuff. So after I do this, I'm going to give you my thoughts on the game. So let's actually just get right into it. Now, it's been a while since I played Genshin. I have played Genshin, don't worry, I have played the game. I'm not just talking out of my ass here. I have played the game, but it has been a while since I played it, so I wanted to get myself a recap on a lot of stuff. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a comparison of 4 years of Genshin Impact versus four days of Wuthering Waves. And we're going to compare 5 parts that make up both of the games. We are going to compare the story, just the 1.0 story, because Wuthering Waves only has the 1.0 story. We're going to compare the combat of the game, the exploration, which includes the map, the traversal, and the fun factor, so just how fun it is to explore the map. We're going to compare the characters in the world. I put them both into the same category just to make it simpler. So basically, the character design and then the art direction. And then we're going to compare their replayability, which would be endgame, daily content, weekly content, and events. So getting right into it, the story. As much as you want to say, oh, this guy's a Wuthering Waves shill, this guy only cares about Wuthering Waves and he hates Genshin. That's not true. I think Genshin is all right in its own way. But dude, I gotta say, I don't think anybody really cares about being spoiled for the 1.0 story in Genshin Impact Mondstadt. I really don't think anybody super cares. Just in case, I'll leave some stuff out anyways. The story's all over the place. It really is, like, entirely all over the place. You just start doing things for no reason and you don't get an explanation. And then you also don't solve any goals. You don't solve anything. You just, at the end of the story, they just say, hey, go to the next town, and then maybe you'll find what you're looking for there. You don't do anything. You don't solve anything. You just do a bunch of stuff for actually no reason. There's no point to anything you did in Mondstadt story. Whereas in Wuthering Waves story, yeah, the beginning parts is literally the best way I could describe Wuthering Waves 1.0 story is a Yappuccino with extra talking. But after, I'd say around the 3rd story quest, it kind of picks up. Scar is a very cool character. I really like Scar's design specifically. I think his voice actor is also good, but I really like Scar's design. He looks insane, and I love that. And, you know, obviously, after 1.0, you'll get back to some more yapping. I won't spoil anything from the Wuthering Waves since people actually care about that one. But you get back to some more yapping. Then there's a new character that's introduced that's also really freaking cool. And then from there, the story is actually enjoyable, and it's still yapping, but I actually care about the yapping, and I care about the things that are happening in the world, and it does set itself up for a really interesting story. And I think it's actually, I wouldn't say really good. I won't say really good because that's being disingenuous. I'd say it's better than the 1.0 story in Genshin. It's definitely better than Mondstadt. Next up, the combat. Now, it's no secret that Genshin's combat is very how would you say, mediocre at best. Genshin's combat is it's for children. In Genshin, you have a team of 4 characters, all with the different abilities, different elements and stuff, and the elements also interact with each other. Imagine playing a game of rock, paper, scissors, where, you know, rock beats scissors, scissors beats rock, and then scissors beats paper. That's essentially what it is in Genshin Impact, where you use the right abilities, and honestly, you don't even need, like, one ability to beat an enemy. You kind of just get 2 things that work really well, and then you use that. Hyper Bloom is a really good example of that. Before I move to Wuthering Waves, because I do have a lot, let's talk about the enemies in Genshin Impact. I said this in my last video, and I'll say it again, and I'll say it as many times as I need to. You are fighting a wall. In Genshin Impact, all you do is you fight an enemy that stands still and lets you attack him. And if you don't think that's the truth, look up any video on any of the bosses, any of the enemies in Genshin. You are just attacking an enemy that has a lot of health and just sits there and lets you attack him. Imagine like a Destiny 2 raid boss, but like there's no mechanics, there's no skill involved. There's no teamwork involved. It's just a raid boss that stands there and lets you damage it. It has a lot of health, but that's it. That's all it is. Which I wouldn't say is difficult. I wouldn't say that's difficult at all. It's endurance. It's a lot of endurance. You have to be able to sit there and not sleep during the fucking boss fight, but it's not enjoyable. I don't know how people just sit there and enjoy that. I mean, maybe casual players can enjoy that because you don't have to think, but for a player who enjoys a challenge, I don't think you would find any enjoyment in Genshin Impact, because all it does is it becomes how fast can you beat a wall, and that's it. Now, Wuthering Waves, on the other hand, is very different. Wuthering Waves is probably one of, if not the best combat game I have ever played, ever. But Wuthering Waves has a bunch of different things that make it unique. You have the intro skill and outro skill, which I think is really cool, actually. I really like the intro and outro skills. There's the Resonance Liberation, which is like your ultimate, the Forte skill, which is like your talent, you know, your normal skill, and then your normal basic slash heavy attack. There is actual like perfect dodging in the game where you can get a punish or dodge counter, as they call it. There's parrying in the game. Some characters have a kit based off of parrying, which I think is interesting. The bosses feel unique. They feel different from each other. It's not just fighting a wall. They actually attack back, and the bosses are pretty rough in the game. Like I've had a lot of trouble fighting the holograms in Wuthering Waves. The holograms are actually really difficult, and it's not just, oh, this enemy has more health and it stands there more, if that makes sense. The enemy actually does a lot of damage, and it's rough. It's actually hard to fight a boss. I don't think a boss needs a lot of moves to be good. If you have a boss that has maybe 3-4 moves, it could still be a really good boss. Think about the Dancer from Dark Souls 3, if anybody has played that. But think about Dancer from Dark Souls 3. Dancer maybe has 4 or 5 moves, and it's still regarded as one of the hardest bosses in Dark Souls 3, just because of how challenging those moves are. You don't need a lot of moves or like a large move set to make a boss interesting and difficult. What else could I say? The elements don't interact with each other as they do in Genshin. Like, you can't just use Havoc and Glacio to do some sort of combination move. But I think it makes up for that in the amount of variety in all of the characters' kits and everything. There are, I think, only 17 characters in the game right now. 18 if you count Yinlin, but she's not out yet. But all of these characters feel unique and special, and they don't feel like carbon copies of one another. I feel like Genshin has this problem where a lot of characters in Genshin just copy someone else's move. They do the same thing essentially, but they just have different animations. In Wuthering Waves, I don't really feel that. I feel that every character has their own unique playstyle and their own unique abilities that actually make a good variety in fighting. And using these characters is a lot of fun. But I think combat Wuthering Waves just has Genshin beat. And if you really don't believe what I'm saying, I encourage you, go look up a video of someone fighting a Genshin boss. You will see exactly what I mean, of just a person using 2 moves on an enemy that's standing still and barely attacks back. That's it. That's Genshin entirety. Next up, we have exploration. And I'm including the map itself. I'm including traversal. I'm including how fun it is to actually explore the map of Genshin and Wuthering Waves respectively. Now, it is kind of hard to compare these two games because Genshin's map is a lot larger than Wuthering Waves. Even if you just compare like the 1.0 map, it's still bigger than Wuthering Waves map right now. But I think this question is a actual no-brainer. In Genshin, if you guys have forgotten, you need to use stamina when doing anything. Even outside of combat, you need stamina to run, you need stamina to climb walls, you need stamina to glide, you need stamina for everything, which is very, very annoying. You're also just very slow. Despite using stamina constantly, you're just slow. It does not feel good to run around the Genshin map. Let's be honest here, fellas. It does not feel good. It just doesn't. In Wuthering Waves, you have a lot of different options. There's grappling hooks, and there's like little machines that you can shoot out, like little grapple points that don't use your grapple cooldown. There is air dodging, so when you're in air, you can press the sprint button and do like a little dodge, which gives you a little extra movement and a little extra height. Of course, there's gliding. The main feature though, outside of combat, you don't use stamina, and that's the big difference between Genshin and Wuthering Waves. Tell me if I'm wrong here. In Genshin, whenever you want to get from point A to point B, what you're gonna do is you're gonna go to your map and you're gonna teleport to point A, or you're gonna teleport to point B from point A. You're not gonna run, you're not gonna glide over there, you're just gonna teleport. teleport. You're going to use a waypoint. In Wuthering Waves, you don't have to teleport. You run really fast. You can run up walls instead of climbing slowly up walls. You have the grappling hook, you have the air dodge, you have the glider, and you don't use stamina at all. You're not, unless it's like on the other side of the map. But if something's like 100 meters away, you're not gonna, I wouldn't teleport. Me personally, I wouldn't teleport. I would just explore the map. And I have a reason to explore the map, because this gets into the fun factor. Echoes. Echoes are a really big part of Wuthering Waves, not only like combat system, but they're just a really big part of the game. Finding and getting echoes that fit your characters and echoes with the right substats, that's a lot of fun, and it adds a lot of like excitement to exploring the map. So yeah, you could teleport, but if you do teleport in Wuthering Waves, you're gonna miss out on finding an echo that could possibly help you out in your journey. So I personally wouldn't teleport, and I don't think anybody should teleport either. You should just run there, not only because the movement is super good and the movement feels fluid and it's nice and it's fast, but also because you could find things that'll actually help you instead of just berries and mints. So I think exploration definitely goes to Wuthering Waves, not for the map particularly, because I do think Genshin has like a lot of things that are interesting about the Genshin map, but there's just not it's not fun to explore the Genshin. You're not gonna have fun doing it. Characters and world design. I think this is a tough decision to make for me personally, because I actually do like the design of the characters in Wuthering Waves. I think that the character design is really nice. I also really like the world. Basically, in Genshin Impact, the world is very colorful. It's very bright. It's vibrant. There's always color on your screen. There's never a dull moment in Genshin Impact, which is nice. I don't think that's actually a problem. I actually do enjoy the brighter games. The issue is that when you constantly see bright games and bright colors and constant like visual noise, you'll never, it'll always feel the same. Going to Mondstadt from Liyue, or Liyue to Inazuma, or Inazuma to Fontaine, for example, it'll always feel the same because it's always bright and colorful. In Wuthering Waves, there are parts of the map, the pretty large parts at that are very gray and decrepit and old and messed up, destroyed. It doesn't look good. But then there are some parts that are just absolutely stunning, beautiful. I'll put some screenshots up on screen right now, but there are just some parts of the game that look really freaking gorgeous. And they look that way because the map has these parts that are gray and like gross looking. So the lows will extend the highs, if that makes sense. Like, because you see a gray part of the map, the part of the map that actually has color and looks good will look even better because the gray part of the map exists. I feel like I'm explaining it in a bad way, but that's how I feel about that. Now, I will say, I think this point actually will go to Genshin despite saying all that, just because the Genshin characters have a air of uniqueness about it. Every character in Genshin looks good, every single one. And there's a lot of characters. So for character design, I would actually give this to Genshin. And I honestly am kind of only giving it to Genshin because Genshin has been out for 4 years. They have a lot more characters. They have a lot of, like, they have a much bigger map. And I honestly hope that Kuro Games doesn't like copy Genshin in the whole colorful map constantly. I want there to be darker gray moments in the map because that just accentuates the brighter moments. So I hope Kuro Games sticks to that. But I will give this point to Genshin because Genshin does have a lot more to look at and it's a lot more visually pleasing, I would say. Now we get to replayability, the last part that make up both of these games. I could cop out an answer and just say, oh, Genshin has no endgame. There's zero endgame in Genshin. You only have the Spiral Abyss and that's it. But let's suspend disbelief for a second. Let's say that Wuthering Waves also just has one version of endgame, which it doesn't, by the way. It has multiple different endgames. I think there's like 3 different endgames currently in Wuthering Waves. But let's just say that Wuthering Waves only had like the holograms. Let's just say that. I still think there's more replayability in Wuthering Waves, and it ties back into the ecosystem. Right now, there is a cool little feature about echoes where some echoes, I think there's only 6 in the game right now, but some echoes have a phantom variant, or as most people would know, a shiny variant, where randomly around the world you can go and you can find these shiny echoes that they don't do anything. They just make the echo itself look different. But I think that adds in so much replayability. Bro, I literally woke up 2 hours ago and I just hopped on to do some farming real quick and I found a fucking shiny. Bro, I don't even care what my next video is. I'm adding this to the video. What the fuck? Bro, I was starting to think these things didn't exist. Oh my god, bro, my first shiny. Let's go. Bro, my first shiny. So as a Pokemon player, and I played a lot of Pokemon in my day. I've shiny hunted. I've done basically everything in Pokemon. I love the idea of being able to shiny hunt echoes in game, especially since echoes are something you are constantly looking at. The whole reason people shiny hunt in Pokemon is number one, the sense of satisfaction when you do find the shiny, and number two, to show them off. You want to be able to show off what you worked for really hard. And I think it's cool that you can show off your shiny echoes in Wuthering Waves. Like I said, there's not a lot of shiny echoes, so that it kind of sucks that they didn't release more on release, but I get it. That's fine. I'm assuming they're going to add in more. I don't know why they wouldn't add in more shiny echoes, but I think that alone is better than the whole endgame thing because there's a reason to actually go back. I've said it before in Genshin, where in that game, all you do is you log in for your dailies and then you log off. Or if there's a story quest, you log in, you do the story quest, you log off. Or if there's a new character, you log in, you get the character, you log off. Or if there's an event, you log in, you do the event, you log off. There's no reason to play Genshin other than doing what you have to. In Wuthering Waves, there are other reasons than doing what you have to, than doing your dailies or events. You can just go shiny hunt. You can go echo hunt for better echoes. You don't need to, they have this thing called tacit fields, which is basically like domains to hunt relics, but you don't need to hunt, you don't need to get relics. You could just go find the enemy that is part of your set that you need, and you could go kill them, and maybe you get their echo. And maybe if you're lucky, you get a shiny. I think that's super freaking cool. Like, that's actually really cool, and it makes the playing the game a lot more fun, and it gives you a reason to log on other than dailies or events, which is very, very nice. And if we do go back to the endgame discussion, it's not even close. Genshin has Spiral Abyss, and I heard they're adding in like a new sort of endgame thing. 4 years late, by the way, but that's just not even close. Wuthering Waves has holograms, which are like harder variants of bosses in the game, which I think is very cool. They have, I think it's like the dream field or something. I don't know. It's the area where you go into like a dream, and it's like a roguelike where, or I guess the better comparison would be the simulated universe from Honkai Star, where you go into a space, you fight a bunch of enemies, and then you get upgrades to your character. That is super cool. I actually have a lot of fun just farming that out and just trying to do that as best I can. I think that's super fun. And then of course they have the tower, or I guess what you would call it the Spiral Abyss, but they have their own version of that where it's basically like a how good are you check, and they're checking to make sure you can actually do this content at a high level, which I think is very cool. But I'd say that the replayability definitely goes to Wuthering Waves, not even for like the end game content, but just for echo hunting in general and shiny hunting. I think that's super cool, and especially when they add in more shiny echoes and more ways to get the shiny echoes. Like, what if they add an item that increases your chances of finding a shiny echo, just like the shiny charm from Pokemon? Or at some point maybe they do add in a stat benefit to shiny echoes, like maybe you get a 5% stat increase when you get a shiny echo. I think that'll be super cool. But there's a lot to do in Wuthering Waves other than just the dailies and the events and the story. There's a lot to do. Now, as you can tell, Wuthering Waves has the story over Genshin, it has the combat over Genshin, it has the exploration over Genshin, and it has the replayability over Genshin. Please answer me this. Why are people still saying that Wuthering Waves is not a good game? Why do people feel the need to say that Wuthering Waves is a terrible game and Genshin is better or whatever? I don't get it. I really don't get it. I think Wuthering Waves it's not a great game. I'll say that. It's not a great game right now, but it does have the potential to become a great game. And as it is right now, it's definitely better than Genshin, only after 4 days. 4 days, that's it. I'm recording this on, May 26th. It'll probably come up on May 27th, but Genshin has had 4 years to make a good game. They've had all of the ingredients to make a actually good game, and Hoyoverse decided to wipe their ass with it. That is not the fault of Genshin itself, that is the fault of Hoyoverse, but because Genshin is the topic of this video, Genshin is just the worst game after 4 years, and Wuthering Waves is just a better game after 4 days. Now, I will say, Wuthering Waves is not without its faults. There's definitely a lot of problems and issues with Wuthering Waves. Like, there was a lot of PC issues. I personally didn't have any problems. I've had one instance where I lagged out, but then I instantly got back in, and I had no other problems other than that. I had no bugs, no issues. I've seen people having issues and bugs, but I personally haven't experienced it. But other than that, I can't really think of a lot of issues that the game has. Like, the story is obviously something they can work on with upcoming story quests. The voice acting is also something they can work on with a better voice direction. Character design, I feel like no games have a good character design at the start. Like, not a single game has a good character design at the start. We all remember the first few fucking Mondstadt characters in Genshin Impact. Diluc is trash. Hey, I'll say it. Diluc is trash. I don't like Diluc. I don't like his design. I think he's very mid, and that is my personal opinion. If you have a problem with that, fight me in the comments. I don't think any game at the start has good character design. especially gacha games, because they release characters frequently. So I feel like the character design is going to get better, and it also already is kind of getting better. Shout out my girl Cheng Li. She looks gorgeous. And also Yin Lin. I mean, come on. What was I saying? Yeah, oh yeah, Wuthering Waves. It's definitely not without its fault. There are things that the game can work on. The thing I want to point out is that the game has only been out for 4 days. It hasn't even been a week yet. There's definitely going to be more updates. I heavily believe in Kuro Games, especially after all of the work they did to make sure people were happy with the launch of the game. People who had PC problems were being rewarded for it, and even people who didn't have PC problems were being rewarded. Everybody wins in that scenario. In a scenario where the devs listen to the game, the people who play their game, everybody wins. The devs win because people are happy, and the people win because the game is good. That is just a truth of the matter. Everybody wins in that scenario as long as the devs listen to the feedback that they're getting. Hoyoverse does not do that, and it's kind of shocking because Honkai Star Rail is a good game. So where did they go wrong? That's also a question for another day. But yeah, now for the part of the video of me giving my opinion on Wuthering Waves itself. I actually think it's a good game. It just is. It just is. Personally, to me, it's a great game, I'd say. In my personal opinion, this is different from what I was saying earlier. In my personal opinion, I think it's a great game. I think it's very fun. I think it's interactive. You can do a lot of stuff. Like I said before, the story does get better. Like, the characters are fun. I enjoy the characters a lot. Tao Chi is still my baby girl, and I don't care what any of you motherfuckers say. Tao Chi is a good character. I use her to this day. She is good. Stop saying that she is not good, because she just is. If you need another video to prove it, I will make another video. But she is a good fucking unit. Stop saying she's not. Other than that, yeah, the characters are cool. I like Calchara. It's pretty. Wuthering Waves is just a good game. People keep saying that it's not, and it's gonna die in a month. I'll see you then, bro. In the meantime, I'm gonna go hunt for some more echoes. That's how I feel about what people are saying. I genuinely don't know why people want this game to die so bad. Why do you feel the need to constantly say, oh, this game's gonna die in a month, this game's gonna die in a month, it's gonna be like Tower of Fantasy? Number one, Tower of Fantasy is still pretty successful. It's still making a lot of money. Number two, why do you care so much? If you don't like the game and you want it to die in a month, why do you feel the need to go on every single social media platform and say, oh, this game's gonna die in a month, it's gonna die in a month? Well, why do you care so much? Why do you care if it's gonna die in a month? Are you just saying that to like be cool or something? Are you being edgy or something? Why do you care if it's gonna die in a month? If you keep saying stuff, it's not gonna die. If you keep talking about the game, it'll never die because there's constantly someone saying its name. That's how I feel about that, but I digress. But yeah, it's honestly just a good game. I will be playing it from now on. Honestly, I'll be playing that along with Star Rail. Wuthering Waves will get better. I fully believe in Kuro Games that it will get better. That's how I feel about the current state of Wuthering Waves after 4 days of play. So yeah, I fully encourage anybody who watches this video, if you have a different take, or if you have a different opinion, or if I've even said something wrong, please put it in the comments. I believe that there is not a single person on this earth who is above criticism. So if I said something wrong that you don't agree with, or if I said something that you don't like, please put it in the comments. I will put my replies there as well. I'll reply to you. But yeah, that has been this video. 4 years of Genshin Impact versus 4 days of Wuthering Waves. If you guys are new to this video, be sure to like and subscribe. Yeah, that's really about it. I'll see you later. Bye.